If you could have just seen what I was doing in order to get myself pumped to film this episode. All right. Welcome to another episode of Friday Night Knits. My name is Rachel. I am your host on this particular podcast channel. I'd love to talk about my current projects as well as potential projects. And then finally, my acquisitions. With this particular podcast, occasionally I will talk about different things that are happening in my life that may be impacting my knitting or how my knitting is impacting different things in my life. So that's no different. And so for this particular episode, I do have some things to share, but it should not be as long as some of the previous ones. If you are one of the few viewers that join me on this particular channel, I hope that you enjoy today's content. So let's go ahead and dive in. So like with every other podcast, I love to start off with my finished objects. And the finished object I want to share with you today is the Illuminate sweater. This is a sweater by Andrea Mowry that I believe came out in 2021. Let me just double check. I got the pattern right here. Yes, I was right. Look at me. Andrea Mowry came up with this particular project called the Illuminate. See, I almost showed y'all the pattern. My bad. The Illuminate came out in 2021. I purchased it about maybe a year after it came out. And had all different kinds of ideas about doing the pattern and also about whether or not I wanted to use one of the acquisitions that was given to me by another podcaster. But in the end, I just never could find the right yarn or the right motivation in order to do it. And then I had this weird random moment where I was like, I want to cast on the sweater. Why? I don't know. I still to this day do not know what just gravitated me towards this pattern, but it happened and I'm so here for it. And here is the finished product of it. Yes. Yes, she is. She is done. Now, I still don't know which side is the right side. I think this is the back side. That seems about right. And this is the front side. And I should hopefully insert some photos of myself wearing it. I felt really cute. I'm not going to lie. But no one asked me anything about it. And my students were like, well, you always make your sweaters, so why would we take any time to ask you about it? And I'm like, oh, come on, guys. You're supposed to ask your teacher about what she's wearing. So that way I can go into explicit details about it and bore you to tears. Like, come on. But they didn't. It's okay, but my peers did. But yeah, isn't she lovely? Oh, she came out beautiful. I love her. I've worn her only once. We are in spring season here in Massachusetts where it starts with some really frigid temperatures and then it warms up and then it cools down and it warms up and it cools down. Today is a cool, windy day. I initially had planned to wear this, but I already wore it this week. So, and I also don't want to wash it again, as it is one of those things where I'm feeling a little lazy and I don't feel like going through the whole process as washing it and wet blocking it, because this particular garment is made with Woolpaca. This is the yarn that was produced by Bauer for Joann's. I found it on clearance. I found the white yarn first, and then later while I was at Joann's, I found the pink yarn. This is like my rest in peace, Joann's. Thank you for giving me a beautiful budget-friendly sweater that I have enjoyed wearing, that kept me warm, and that I felt cute in, even on a day where I was a little bloated. And I was really happy with the outcome. So this is the Illuminate. She's all finished. I am so proud of myself for finishing this particular project. I am going to enter it into the knit along that Andrea Mowry is hosting on her Vavory group. So we'll see how that goes as well. So that is my one and only finished object. I have two works in progress, but I'm only going to focus on one because the other one is just my socks. I already talked to you guys about the socks last time I filmed an episode. And to be honest with you, I made zero progress on it because of this particular project. Now, I have a wonderful little cousin who is turning 21, who actually turned 21. He turned 21 just a few days ago. And he has been such a wonderful presence in my life. And with the passing of his mom, I have wanting to just make sure he remembers that he's loved. And his mom loved him so much. And I miss his mother like there's nobody's business. Like she was like a sister to me. And so her passing was unexpected and it was traumatic for all of us. And we're all still dealing with it, even though it's been 6 years. Yeah, it's been 6 years since she's passed away, but we're all still dealing with it. It still feels very fresh in our memory. And so I try to do little things for him and his sister just to show them that someone is thinking about them, someone loves them, because there's nothing like the love of your mother sometimes, you know? And so that's just my way of just trying to give back, because I want her to know that I'm looking out for her babies, because her babies meant the world to her. So with that said, since he's turning 21, he wanted a knitted garment because his sister got a knitted garment. His sister got the knitted garment because it didn't fit me. That's the reason why she got it. But he didn't need to know all that. So I was like, sure, Trey, I'll make you a knitted garment. So he put the Two of Wands hoodie. It's the Clubhouse Raglan hoodie. It is a really simple pattern. If you are someone who is new to garment knitting, Two of Wands is probably a really great person to turn to, because her patterns are really clear and concise, but elegant at the same time. I definitely have enjoyed working up several of her patterns. This is not the first time I've done one. And so this is actually my second time making this particular pattern, or maybe it's a third, but if that tells you anything, that's how much I've enjoyed doing this pattern and how easy it is to implement. So I have been struggling trying to figure out what yarn to use for this particular garment, because I wanted to select a yarn that he could wash, put in a dryer, and not really think about it. But I also wanted to pick out something that wasn't too acrylic, because I want him to be able to enjoy and fall in love with knits. And so I initially purchased Lion Brand's Wool Ease, which is the suggested yarn for the pattern. So I bought the skein and I sent him a picture of it, and he's like, I kind of wanted a darker red. And I was like, I figured as much. I should have asked before I ordered a sweater quantity of it. Fortunately, Lion Brand took it back, but I had to pay $17 to ship it back. So in the end, it would have been cheaper for me just to keep it, because I spent $40 on a sweater quantity of this. I bought 8 balls of this, spent $40, and it took $17 to send it back. So I was standing there like, why am I sending this back? I might as well just keep it. But it's one of those things. It is what it is. I still saved $23, and someone else is, well, not really, but anyhow, because I ended up keeping it. Anyway, long story short, I sent the yarn back and was like overthinking what yarn to use. And I went on so many different websites, and I knew at the end of the day, I wanted to use the Superwash yarn, but I didn't want one that peeled too easily, because I have other Superwash yarns in my collection that unfortunately are peels really easily. Like Mrs. Babs, for example, love her yarn, but it's peeling. And so let me just fix the camera here. There we go. So I was literally sitting in my yarn room right here, and I think I was working on the Illuminate sweater when I got this epiphany. I'm like, what about the everyday sweater I wear? And so there's this sweater that I made a couple of months ago as a test knit for Veronica Lindbergh. I believe it's called, nope, don't remember the name of it, but I will insert the name on the screen. So Rachel, insert the name on the screen. So anywho, I fell in love with this sweater. I wear it way too much, where I should know the name of it. But anywho, one of the reasons why I like it so much is that it's easy to wear, and it has not peeled. And when I say I've worn it, I've laid in it, slept in it, gone to the store, gone to activities with my sons. It has been out and about in Massachusetts. So with this particular yarn, I was like, why don't I just see if this yarn comes in the color that he's looking for? So I went on to a website. There's 2 websites I went on. I first tried Wool and Company to see if they have the yarn. They had it, but not the quantity I needed. But then there was another yarn store here in Massachusetts, Burlington, Massachusetts, as a matter of fact, called Another Yarn Store. I was like, let me go online and see. And they had the exact amount I needed. So I was able to buy a sweater quantity of this yarn, and it comes, it's 100 grams. You get 218 yards. And for, it's recommended to use US 7, but I believe I'm using a US 8, which is 5mm. It's Plymouth Select, worsted merino, superwash, and it looks like I spent $16 per skein. And because I frequent that particular yarn store, I actually ended up getting it on discount. So initially the price was a little over $130 something, and I got it for $122. So not bad. And another thing I like about that particular yarn store is that they have all these different types of clearance sales. So some of those high-end, big known name yarns, like Rowan, will be on sale for like 30, sometimes 40% off. And so I love to check out they call it their little bin sales. So they usually will do like their discontinued yarn or yarn that's not really selling as well in the store, and people will go ahead and purchase it. So I was really, really excited. And yes, on camera, it looks really close, but this one is definitely a more of a cherry red. So I'm glad I was able to get this one. And immediately the second I started knitting with it, it felt like the right yarn. So let me show you where I'm at with his sweater. Some progress. Here we go. So as you can see, I have broke for sleeves, and it looks like I did about maybe 3 inches of the body so far, and it's coming along. It's coming along. I'm just trying to be careful not to row out too much. Not that I really understand what that means, but that's okay. And it is definitely coming along really well. I'm enjoying it. I'm really proud of my Raglan increases. Let me fix the lighting in here so maybe you can see a little better. Here, no, that's not going to help. I have not really. No, not really. But anywho, I'm going to try to get as close as possible to the camera and hide my face. But my Raglan increases, this is probably the best I have ever done with Raglan increases. It's never been my strong suit. I tend to make mistakes. I don't always go in the right direction. So I'm really am loving, because I want it to look really great on him. So he'll feel comfortable wearing it all the time and feel like every time he's around his little body that he feels all wrapped up in my arms like he was when he was a baby. But now he's a grown man. They grow up so quickly. Anywho, I never will forget the day when she called to tell me she was pregnant. I was like, are we old enough to do that yet? She's like, well, I am. And I'm like, you and your husband ready to have kids? Like, we're there? Like, because we were we were in our 20s when she got pregnant with Trey. So I was very immature. So she was old enough to handle it. I was definitely not. But anyway, that's another story for another day. But his sweater is coming along. I really need to get into the groove of knitting on it. I can honestly say I have not made as much work on it as much as I thought. I am not feeling as not to say I'm not feeling motivated to knit. It's just one, I haven't really had that much time with. I've had more meetings than I care to admit these past 2 weeks, and two, it's been really cold to the point where my fingers always feel frozen, and we're not turning on the heat because it's not consistently cold outside. We've been only doing it in the evening, so I just been feeling cold and just not enough time, and I don't know. There's other projects I want to work on. I've enjoyed sweater knitting. Like, this sweater is my pride and joy at this current time. You saw my oversized white cable sweater. That's another pride and joy of mine. But I just been making so many sweaters of recently that I'm like, not feeling as motivated to make as many. And I was like, well, maybe I'll cast on a cardigan. But again, I'm not even wearing the cardigans I have made for a variety of different reasons. For 2 of the cardigans, it just doesn't really fit that well. And for the other 2, it just doesn't go with whatever it is I'm wearing at work. So with that said, I want to just work on accessories. Like, I have been itching to like knit on my socks. I finally got the yarn that I want to do for the coming together shawl, and I genuinely want to make another hat. I got this really beautiful yarn that I rediscovered, which I'll talk about in a moment. Now I want to make a hat with it. So with that said, I'm hopeful that I will find some more motivation to finish his sweater, because I am promising myself that I can work on those smaller projects, the socks, the shawl, the hat, once I finish his sweater, which I think it took me a month to do it the first time, but that was like in the beginning of my knitting journey. I know I can knock this out in about 2-3 weeks. The goal is to have this finished by the 31st. So we shall see if I will have this done in the 30th. So fingers crossed. Now, keep in mind, this weekend is going to be a weekend because I got to take my son to get his hair cut. In order to do that, I got to take out all his twists. And this little boy, his hair is long. And so got to detangle it and wash it and detangle it again and condition it. And then put it in a protective style and while he's getting his hair cut, and then style it for him. And with the younger one, he's going to want his hair done. So I'm going to have to detangle it, wash it, detangle it again, because both of them have, their hair gets very easily tangled. So it's a little frustrating doing their hair. And neither one of my sons wants to get a haircut. They love their long locks. And I'm just like, great. I hate doing hair. This is the reason why my hair is in braids, or I cut it off over the summer because I hate doing hair. And what am I doing? Hair. But anyway, so I don't know how much time I will get in order to work on it, to the point where I almost canceled my son's appointment because I wanted to make sure I had enough time to knit. Yeah, I'm that mom. But my hope is this evening I could do some knitting, as well as tomorrow and Sunday. Sunday has been dedicated to my crochet journey. I have made some progress with that particular blanket, the Yorkshire blanket, which I will happily share images of that as I get closer to finishing that blanket. It's nowhere near where it needs to be, so I'm not going to even bore you with that, but just say that I have really been enjoying getting back into crocheting. And I'm so glad that particular project. So as soon as that particular project is done, I'm hoping to do Tony Lipsy's. She has this beautiful Afghan where, again, you're trying different stitches and then you're putting it all together. So I would like to do that as well, because I love Tunisian crochet too. I'm not as good at it, and I'm hopeful that by doing the sampler of each different type of stitch, that it will help me get better, because I definitely feel like my crochet skills have gone up since starting this particular blanket. But yeah, those are the two projects that I'm most excited about, or needing to work on. I'm more excited about the crochet project than the sweater, which is not like me, but it is what it is. We'll see what ends up happening. So a little early, is a few moments ago, let's transition into the final segment about my crafting experience. So I had last week, I was in that mode before I went to the yarn store to buy what I have now. I was like, I need to do something. I'm not feeling motivated to work on any project because I finished my sweater. I was still in transition and waiting on the other yarn. So I came into my yarn room and I'm like, it's a mess. I need to fix it. It really wasn't, but in my mind it was. So I went through this whole entire process of taking all the yarn off of my shelves. I wiped down all the shelves and I decided to reorganize it. So come join me in viewing this. So here we go. We're going to take a little tour of my currently updated yarn room. So here's my yarn, my DK weight yarns over here. That's my sweater still drying. Here's my fingering weight yarn, all in its special locations, protected with the various little, storage containers. Very excited about that. Here we go to my worsted weight yarn. You just saw my mohair bag. All of my worsted weight yarn is living in this particular bookcase. This is my current location for my current projects. Over here are my books. There are my future projects. All the projects I want to cast on for this particular year. The yarn is all together. And just in case I don't do it this year, it's always time for next year too. That is the final version of my yarn room. Like I said, I was not feeling as motivated to knit. So I thought rearranging my yarn will help me with that. And I'm so glad I did that, because I felt so, oops, dropped my phone. Let me fix that. There we go. I felt so after straightening up, and it's just one of those things like, gosh, I should have did that a while ago, because now I'm feeling inspired. I know what projects I want to do. I know when I want to cast them on. And now I'm not feeling as much pressure to buy more yarn, even though more yarn came in. But that's another story now. So I'm glad that I got it organized. I feel like I have a good flow now, because I know what projects I'm definitely going to be casting on at some point this year. I know what projects I would love to cast on, but I'm not just quite ready yet, but it's all in one space. So everything is where it needs to be. And it's amazing, when you don't feel organized, and that's when it starts to make you feel some anxiety. So I was really pleased about that. And in addition to organizing my yarn room and finding the perfect yarn for my cousin's sweater, I did get some acquisitions that came into the mail of items that I had pre-ordered a few months ago, back in January, to be honest with you. And so I guess this is another transition. One of the acquisitions I got and recently that came into the mail is a Woolen and Nosh pre-order. It's called the Reed Band Books. So here's a label. And it's superwash targy fingering, 90% superwash targy and 10% nylon. You get 411 yards in a big skein. And the little skein, I believe, is 20 grams. I love it. I know that this yarn was mentioned if you're someone who watches Earth Tone Girls. She talked about getting this particular yarn. I believe she used a white, or maybe she got white as her pairing, but pink is definitely something that's still in my season I enjoy doing. So I was really pleased to see this. I think it looks beautiful. And I know just the book to read that's going to go, well, I don't. There's so many books on my radar. So I'm really excited about this, and I'm hoping to cast this on sooner than later because I'm itching to put this on my needles. I never used targy before, and it's a lot softer than what I had anticipated. So I'm very, very curious about it. So in addition to that particular acquisition that came in, let me just lean over. I am someone that genuinely enjoys purchasing from independent yarn dyers, and Yarn Cafe Creations is a independent dyer that I have gravitated towards for, I would say, for the last 3 years of my knitting career. And I was introduced to this particular vendor after the debacle that happened at, maybe it's 2 years ago now. But anyway, after the debacle that happened at one of the yarn festivals in New York, a few years ago, this was one of the vendors, I guess, who did not really get great patronage. And Needles at the Ready was talking about how, their setup and things that happened to them. And I was like, oh, that's unfortunate. So I went on their website and saw such beautiful colorways. And I have been buying yarn from that vendor since then. Like, it's such beautiful. And I could not help it this time. So I mentioned a few episodes ago, I went to go see Wicked with one of my good friends. And so would you know that Yarn Cafe Creations was doing a Wicked theme, like inspiration for yarn. So isn't that beautiful? Here, let me hold it closer. Yes. So in addition to the 3 yarns, I also got this little heart. Isn't that amazing? And inside the heart is this, sorry about that. Look at this. Look what was inside. Isn't that just lovely? And it matches the black perfectly. So here we go. And look how well it matches the green. Oh, turn around. There we go. I'm like covering up. Isn't that amazing? Like, she did such a great job. Like, I hope it came up on camera, but it really is amazing. I'm trying to like put the little thing up. Let me see if I can get that. That looks amazing. So yeah, I was really, I fell in love with it, and I'm so glad that I purchased it. I don't know why. I really genuinely enjoy the yarn. I love their unique yarn label. Like, they have these little snaps to it that you can unsnap or snap. I just think it's cool. And so with my purchase, I got a 100-gram ball of yarn of superwash yarn. And so hang on 1 second. Don't switch. Okay. Sorry, my computer had popped up and told me something. So with this particular skein of yarn, I got biscotti sock fingering weight, 85% superwash merino, 15% nylon for 437 yards. And for these two little cutie patooties, it's superwash merino wool, where it's 85-25. No, it's 85-15. Duh. 85-15, and it's 87 yards for every 20 grams. So very, very happy with that particular purchase. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with this little container. So for now, I'm just going to keep random, stitch markers and all the other little knickknacks that we acquire when we knit or crochet. So we'll see how that goes. But those are the 2 most recent acquisitions that are coming to the mail that I had purchased a while ago and have now made their way here. I had hoped to share with you, I don't see it. I don't think I have it yet. That's the reason why I don't say it. I had hoped to share with you another acquisition that I got. But when I'm ready to talk about my coming together Shaw, I talk about it then, because then the rest of my order will be there. So anyway, you didn't need to know. I'm so excited about finishing this sweater for my cousin and listening to a good audiobook or watching a movie this weekend. If I finish my son's hair as well, I could just pay a professional to do it because my husband's like, just pay someone else to do it. And I'm like, no, because I can do it myself, because I do my own braids. I can do their braids too. Not to say that my braids look stellar, but I mean, I think they look pretty good for someone who does it herself with her own little fingers. But I just want to use my fingers to be making up some stuff. But as soon as I get this sweater done, I can get back into my sock knitting and all that jazz. So for the rest of this weekend, I hope to sit back, relax, do their hair, and also listen to a good audiobook. So I just went back on to Kayla Book Review. Let me see if I can find her. I am going to make sure I link her YouTube channel. So her YouTube channel is called Kayla's Bookish Vibes. Here she is. Now, she has been my book guru for the last couple of months because she has made some excellent recommendations that I'm like, yup. And I'm so glad that I've been turned on to her channel because it really has been helpful. And so the most recent book that she just mentioned on one of her episodes is this one. And I started listening to it and I was like, yep, this is it. I don't need anything else. So I'm going to go ahead and borrow it and get it in and sit back and relax. And so I like Alyssa Cole. I know for a fact I read one of her books. I just can't remember which one and I can't find it in my Libby, but her name sounds really familiar. So I just can't wait to sit back and relax, put up my feet and enjoy it. So those are the rest of my plans for this weekend. What are your plans for the weekend? Are you going to sit back and relax with a book and a movie? Or are you going to sit back and relax with your knitting in a movie? Like, what are your plans? I would love to hear. Share in the comments. Thank you so much for joining me for this brief, but hopefully entertaining episode of Friday Night Knits. I am going to bid you a farewell, and I will see you on the next episode. Bye for now.